Welcome to Money on Tap. Money on Tap, your personal finance headquarters, where we bring out the professionals' experience and some fun in what we call three-dimensional investing, utilizing insurance, brokerage, and fee-based planning. That's what we do on this show. We look at all sides of the issues, and we bring a fully independent planning perspective to the table.
Welcome. You're listening to Money on Tap, and you can reach us at 855-226-8551. My name is Seth Krussman, and I am joined here again with the only two, Ben Brayshaw and Dan Mickelin. How are you guys doing today?
Good, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I am so glad to be back here with you guys. I'm looking forward to today's show, and I want to just say thank you. Thanks for just giving me an opportunity to be here and do this with you, and thank you to the listeners that keep coming back and supporting our show and, giving us some great ideas as they come in and they talk to us at our offices. And, we sit down, we get to do some financial planning with them. And sometimes some of those conversations start a show like you're going to get today, which is it's about protecting your future and protecting your parents. Two very, very valuable pieces of our life as we take a look in the planning world, but it's one that we're going to have a lot of fun talking about today.
Yeah, I'm super excited about talking about this. As much as there's some kind of concerning issues, there's some really positive issues on how to spin a lot of stuff in the right direction when it comes to dealing with retirement, whether you're prepping for retirement or you're in retirement and you have family members that I would tell you that the majority of people have somebody in their life during their retirement or pre-retirement years come into their life needing some additional help, whether it's financial, physical, or even care inside your home. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't plan for when it really comes to retirement. And I think there's a lot to be said here. And I think we have a lot of information in front of us. I mean, our whole table is spread out with papers and thoughts, and I have a billion of them going through my head just thinking about it, talking here now.
Caring for elders is a big deal, and it's just an overarching commitment for everybody involved, and it's important to do it right and do as much advanced planning as you possibly can for those occurrences. And sometimes you can't, but hopefully today's show gives everybody a little bit of insight, whether they're presently dealing with it, on the verge of dealing with it, or just concerned that it may be an issue for them in the future.
Yeah. But before we jump into that great show, we have money in the news.
First up in Money in the News, we got an article here about one of the iconic stores of my youth, and I was very sad to see it go, and happy to hear that there may be a comeback, but Toys R Us is making a return to a physical location, starting off with a mall down in New Jersey, which is a little far, but it's probably a good thing based upon my kids' appetite for toys around this time. But I just remember as a kid, the few opportunities I did get to go, just being in awe of the sheer volume of toys that they have there, and just going from aisle to aisle and picking one thing and tossing another one out of the cart, and everything just kept getting bigger and better until we finally made our way out. But very happy to see this come back. So this is something that we saw here in CNN. But Toys R Us is making a return with a 20,000 square foot, 2-story location. So they're not going small. They're coming back at this pretty hard, which I think is really cool. In addition to that one primary spot, what they had also here mentioned that I thought was a good idea for them, and potentially something to keep in mind for in the investment end of this. But they are opening up in 400 Macy's, and they're doing this little shop within a shop concept, which I thought was a pretty cool way for them to tip their toes in the water and kind of get back into the retail market that way.
And that's kind of an interesting thing that's been going on in the branding world, right? Every time you walk into a Target, you see a Starbucks, right? There's all these stores inside a store, and it's honestly like we've moved away from the mall concept for the most part, right? All the malls have kind of like not the big, Mall of America and stuff like that, but kind of those outskirt malls that were kind of like hybrid malls, just a little bit like we have in Concord here in New Hampshire. they've completely downsized and they've kind of fallen apart a little bit. But, people started going directly to the store they wanted to. But now you go to Target and you've got Starbucks. So they're almost like they're creating even smaller mini malls. You go one place and shop 10 other stores. But that's interesting.
First of all, I gotta give it to CNN on this one. They chose the right person to write this article, Jordan Volinsky, who just turned 13, folks. If you were to take a look at his picture here at the top of the article, that would be my best guess at how old Jordan is. So after that, I got to tell you, we were actually talking about malls this last week. Of course, it's the season, and we don't even know what malls are still open. Downtown Portland, I don't know if there's any businesses open there because they opened up rioting again a couple of weeks ago. It's open season here. So who's going to go down there? And then at the Washington Square Mall, which is, I know there's a Tesla dealership there, and maybe a Cheesecake Factory still, but I have no clue. It's been so long since I've actually gone into a mall. But I was elated to see that Toys R Us could be making a comeback because it's right there next to that mall that we would drive by. And my heart sank. I was just sad that there is no Toys R Us for us to take the kids to and experience what that's like.
Well, they've got an ice cream parlor in this thing, a multi-level slide, and as a dad going through Toys R Us, right? How many times are you like, your son wants something, your daughter wants something, whatever, and then you're like, I kind of want this too. You just grab something, right? And so, there's that piece going on. But I think, I really do appreciate your comment about Jordan. He does look about 12 or 13, I would say. He's probably the most educated and knowledgeable person in all of CNN to boot. So, I think they really did choose the right person.
Couldn't resist.
Couldn't hold that.
I thought for sure there was going to be like a felon Santa thing coming from Portland, but you had to go CNN, so that's all right.
I bet you anything, if you were to take a look at the profitability of one of these stores, what item would blow it all out of the water is batteries. The batteries that they sell you on your way out the door. I guarantee you they make more on that than they do the toys.
You're probably right. But if I was really going to blow CNN out of the water, I'd be like, we're the only 3 people that read this article. The amount of listenership they have these days.
Well, never mind is actually, that's the title of this next article. Never mind Tesla CEO Elon Musk's stock sales. If you remember that, we talked about him and his stock sales a couple of weeks ago, right? Look what Microsoft's CEO just did. So, we talked about Elon Musk kind of putting out this Twitter on, should I sell my stock or not sell my stock, when really it was kind of like he was going to because he had to if he wanted to be, making money off of it. But today we get to read about Satya Nadella recently sold a chunk of stock, more than a chunk, really. It's like half of his stock. That doesn't happen every day that you have a CEO of somebody like Microsoft taking half of their stock, which is significant, and selling it.
Yeah, this is actually pretty remarkable, and I think this is probably not a very well-known scenario because it's just not reported the same way as some stuff. But selling half of his shares, and Microsoft has just been booming for the last year, that's a big statement. Unless he's doing a down payment on some multi-million-dollar, $100 million mansion, that's a significant sale. That's not a eking, 2% or 3% of your stock off because you're trying to raise capital. This is a poignant sale, and it's actually something that I would vocalize as a little concerning. I know I've personally trimmed a little bit of my Microsoft holdings as well, but not because of this. But this definitely makes me think maybe I should trim more. But that is really interesting, and it's a little scary. I think it's like anything. Like you own a business and you say, I want to put it out. I want to create an IPO, or I want to sell my business on the open exchange. You don't start with selling half of your holdings.
Well, I think the guy's attempting to do what Elon caught a lot of flack for doing because Elon chose to do it on Twitter, of course. So that may be a lesson in there for him. But he's just trying to get ahead of this capital gains story. He wants to take the gain this year and pay less tax.
Yeah.
I think he actually went back and listened to some old school Money on Tap shows where we talked about these CEOs having, so much of their assets tied up in one stock where they work, and we've talked about Enron and the list goes on where we've had these scenarios. Doubt that Microsoft is an Enron story, but if the truth is here that they're looking for greater diversification, selling $285 million worth of your assets from, which is only half of the holdings there in Microsoft, why not?
That'll get you diversified.
Well, maybe he's going to go over and buy some Twitter, because that's what's up next, folks, is, yes, Twitter, Jack Dorsey. Guess he's moving on. And that is something that, you know what? I think we all can say congratulations. Good job, Twitter. Moving on.
There's a lot inside Twitter that I hate.
You notice I stopped for several seconds there before I said anything else.
Twitter is like the epitome of a poorly run company, and with all the opportunities. I was actually listening to one news commentary after another, and they've been talking about Twitter left and right. And Jack Dorsey is probably the worst person that has run Twitter over the last 5 or 6 years out of any technical scenario, right? The entire tech boom is going on. And when you think back about when Trump launched Twitter as his sole communication pretty much for every policy change, everything he thought, right? Whether you liked Trump or didn't like Trump, you listened to his tweets, right? Everyone heard him. And if all of a sudden the most powerful position person in the world decides Twitter is their number one way to forecast all of their thinking, how did Twitter lose money that year? Like, in that deciding factor, how did they lose money? And then on top of it, right, they proceed to take the person who's followed the most, who's all that, and kick them off Twitter, right? It's an open forum, and it runs off of energy. I mean, right? I mean, just from a business standpoint, like, you want as much craziness on that conversation. Like, they don't have to produce anything. They just host an open talk show. And the people who talk the most, it reminds me of a Rush Limbaugh report one time I heard. I didn't listen to Rush Limbaugh that much, but I listened to him periodically once in a while. And more people listened to Rush Limbaugh that didn't like him than the people who agreed with him. And it was just interesting to me that the same concept exists and all this stuff, like to shut down those things. Twitter has just been so poorly run. And I think the fact is that free speech is what makes America great, which makes people engaged. And I think, honestly, removing these people and shutting these tweets down and all the different stuff that's going on and allowing good, healthy debate to happen and trying to put everyone in these guardrails has really hurt Twitter, which is why I sold their stock months ago, because I did own it. I owned it when it was like practically falling through the toilet. I'm like, how can this possibly be? And this is long before the election. I watched it ride up. They cut Trump. And I was like, fine, they're doomed to fail, because you can't just say, I mean, the only thing that's going to drive Twitter are the people who are in debate, right? That's what people are doing. They're debating. And if you remove the debaters, the people who everyone's really getting energy around, you're killing your audience.
Well, it seems like their problems go back even further than that. If you take a look at some of the kind of leading technology and social media stocks, and you think Twitter, just by name brand recognition and just that it's, huge market share in our minds about communication and social media, you'd think that the stock has done well, or, it should have at least. But, if you take a look back 6 years, Twitter stock is up 75%, which, is okay. It's not a great return, but at least it's positive. But by comparison, Microsoft up 640%, Google 345%, Amazon 580%. And Apple 450%. So compared to some of its peers, and then Facebook's not listed in there, but that's got to be several 100%, for sure.
And I think, honestly, that's, Facebook, they suffered hard too. I don't think they've done as well as some of those, but I think the more that they try to control these environments, the more people get irritated and just leave. Like, I don't even have a Twitter account anymore. I just got rid of it. I haven't even thought about Twitter. It doesn't even cross my mind, because I'm like, if I can't have an open conversation with somebody, or you're going to cut down conversation, well, I'm going to leave, because that's not That's not what I'm in for.
If you want to get a hold of Ben on social media these days, folks, you can find him on Pinterest. He's got some fabulous ideas out there. Making a statement.
Yeah, I use Instagram. I'll post a photo.
Yeah, the numbers don't lie, do they? And I think while you were saying inept or something like that, I was just thinking cesspool. That's all I'm like. This Twitter is just ridiculous what people
I totally agree with you. It's such garbage stuff on there. But if you're, no matter where, I don't care which side you fall on in this. It's just bad business to think I'm going to cut out the person who draws people in to argue when I'm basically an entire realm of people arguing. Like you're going to have total crazies on both sides, and you want them all to be engaged in Twitter. So Jack Dorsey, you're an idiot. Like, I mean, you could have run this company to, $500,000 a share, and your agenda-driven pool has just killed it. And everybody who owns Twitter should be ticked at this guy.
It's an incredible platform to allow people to demonstrate how unintelligent they are. And their leader just did that again and is leaving. So congratulations, Jack. Wish you well.
I mean, he may be super rich, but and it's agenda-driven, whatever that scenario is, but you have a responsibility to the shareholders. And I don't care if I don't care if Biden or Trump or Obama or whoever, I don't care who they are. They all should have a right to speak. And if there's inappropriate, material, I know they have all sorts of crap that's like kids shouldn't see and everything else. I mean, that stuff, yeah. I mean, there's a general kind of exclusion for appropriate, R-rated stuff should be off of there. But general conversation, you hate this or you don't like this person or whatever. I mean, that's what Twitter is. So, anyways.
What it's not is a moneymaker. That we know.
That's correct.
That is going to be a wrap for us in Money in the News. However, we have a whole rest of the show here that we're going to dive into protecting your future and your parents, talking about some. It's not all just long-term care. That's a big part of our conversation here. It's a huge conversation, but that's where we're going to revolve around today. That's where we're going to spend our time. Now, it's also a good time, if you haven't already, to reach out and give us a call at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. Now, when you do so, you actually can sign up for one of our webinars this week, which is Social Security or taxes and retirement, both critical places for you to have some understanding as you're getting into retirement, planning for retirement. So you can get a hold of us there and sign up for either one of those webinars. Again, Social Security or taxes and retirement at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hey folks, Seth Krussman, Brayshaw Financial Group is our company, and we bring to you Money on Tap. I say we, that's Ben and I. We have a lot of fun doing this show. And one of the things that we love about doing Money on Tap is that our goal for you to have access to the financial planning world. How do we think? What are we doing? What are we talking about? Raising the bar of your financial education. It's so critical. And that's what we're doing here. The other side of this is as well, we're financial planners. If you are looking to work with a financial planner, if you want to have that playbook for you to understand the important things right now and how you're going to get to your goals or how you're going to retire successfully, that's what we're doing as well. If you have $250,000 of investable assets, give us a call. It's free to you, and it is worth your time to pick up that phone and give us a call and discover what complete wealth management looks like. Ben and I are excited about the opportunity to partner with you and give you that financial plan that's going to make the next step so much better understood and get you where you need to go.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And today we are talking about protecting your future and your parents. It is a huge conversation that we spend a lot of time in as financial planners. If you didn't know, that's what Ben, Dan, and myself do. We're financial planners at Brayshaw Financial Group. And it's a conversation a lot of the times that crosses so many different lines, across just the financial aspect of it. There's so much heart and preparation that needs to happen. I would say should happen, needs to happen in and around yourself and your family and your parents. Lots of layers here. So we're going to get going on this, and looking forward to seeing how the conversation happens and how it develops and where we land the plane here, guys. So, Dan, would you go ahead and get us going in the right direction?
Yeah, no problem, Seth. I appreciate that. And really, what it's about is, a lot of us, at some point face the reality of having to take in or care for aging parents. And, I know in my own personal life, we kind of stepped in and helped my grandmother out towards the end for her. And honestly, my parents, another near and dear story for me, but, they've literally been caring for family, on and off, starting with my grandmother since 2004. So it's been basically a never-ending, underappreciated, and very expensive ordeal for them. And they went into it without really, much preparation or anticipation for that, but, a heart full of good intentions and have just tried to do the best for everybody. But, the impact it has on them and their dreams and plans in retirement is significant. So I think it was worthwhile to do a show about, how do you prepare for that and what kind of a situation it is for just so many people out there. In fact, in researching the show, I found that some information out there indicating that 1 in 10 U.S. parents is also caring for another adult. And the price for care can be up to $18,000 per year for adult daycare, $50,000 for in-home care, or upwards of $100,000 for a private room in a nursing home. So tremendously expensive alternatives if you're unwilling or unable to do it on your own. But for the individuals who do decide to take it on, the costs for them are significant as well. On average, caregivers spend $7,000 to $13,000 annually out of pocket taking care of family. And there's generally, in up to 63% of the cases anyway, no financial plan in place to cover those costs. So it's a significant undertaking and it's a significant risk for everybody involved. So I think it's important to think about and talk about these situations before they arise. Do the best that you can to lay some good groundwork for when that time comes. And the first point would be to consider long-term care. I know that's a topic that not everybody gets real excited about, considering, what it is. But, we've mentioned a number of times on the show, but these days it's not just nursing home insurance, which everyone tends to lean towards. But it's all too often, pursued or thought of when it's too late for the people who are primarily in need, those who are on the way into a facility or have care imminent. That's when it's kind of too late to get long-term care. An AARP study that is out there suggests that age 65 is kind of the sweet spot to start planning for that and to consider purchasing long-term care if you're interested. But we would tell you otherwise. We would tell you it's probably a little bit sooner. And from a product solution standpoint, there are hybrid products out there that really do meet the need or can address some of it that are not totally based upon care services to be provided.
I would say that you're right on there, Dan, on some of those issues around the timing of buying long-term care and when's the appropriate thing. I think for our listeners today, we do retirement planning, and I think one piece that a lot of people don't take into account is that retirement planning has so many different, turns and boulders rolling down the hill in front of your car kind of scenario where you're just unsure what's going to happen and what's coming your way. And I would say that it's a vast majority of people who end up caring for a family member, and it doesn't even have to be a parent. It could be a special needs sibling. I've seen that happen a number of times. And it just becomes overwhelming and honestly completely disruptive to a retirement plan. And people say, well, what's the financial stake? And the financial stake is that people leave their jobs because it becomes too overwhelming. Or, I've seen divorces occur over it, and statistically, it's the oldest daughter that ends up caring for their parents. They're the ones that actually usually are the ones that step in. That's some random statistic. Even if the youngest child's the only daughter, it usually ends up still being that person, the daughter. My wife being the only daughter, and my definitely lends me some concern for my in-laws, but I love them, and we'll have to deal with that. But, we've seen divorces, we've seen separations, we've seen having to move to a different property or home or need a bigger place or do an add-on addition. There's just so many different things that have indirect financial consequences that people aren't prepared for. And nevertheless, this stress on family, as much as you do love those people, it does add a significant amount of struggle. I would say that long-term care, and I'd be curious how you guys see this too, but long-term care is one of those words that people scare and jump away from. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he was referred to me by another advisor, and Dan and I have been actually chatting with him on and off, and he's fairly well off, and he's just had really bad experiences. He was a middle caregiver for his mom and his father-in-law, I think it was, and he's like, I didn't have, one of them had long-term care, one didn't. I think we spent the same money on both. You can't argue the fact of whether or not he did or didn't spend money, but would he have spent more money on the person who had the care? I don't know. And I'm trying to go through the relevance of it. People just really kind of walk away scared in the idea of long-term care. And I think, if anything, in anything you hear today, long-term care of yesteryear is long gone, and it is a completely new and vibrant kind of methodology. And I talked to him about that, and we do mostly a life long-term care solution where there's a life insurance piece to it, so that if you don't use it, there's an asset going back to your family. And that makes people feel a lot better, because then the cost is not so intense in the idea that you're going to lose everything. So, but it is amazing what long-term care does for families across the board, because it's not just the cost, it's the time. Because, you have, I've lost both my parents. I was younger when I did. But, I would give anything to be able to sit down and hear my dad tell a story or my mom talk. Those are the types of things that I would just love to hear their voice other than what I hear in my head. And that's a really hard thing when you're thinking about the struggles of caring for somebody in a time when they're deteriorating in life. Those are the moments you want to spend that are engaged with them, not worrying about making sure all their medicines are in place. And there's probably some fond memories around that care. But honestly, if it's going to wear you down, it's going to bring your relationship into turmoil too. It's a struggle on it. And I think that having some sort of set plan for that care is going to actually enhance the ability to have a stronger relationship in that time period. It doesn't have to be full care, but it needs to be something. And in-home care is a wonderful objective. So that's my little spiel off of your conversation, Dan, on long-term care.
So the numbers are, I think, really interesting to me around the aging population. What do we have happening? And it's not just within the U.S. There's actually worldwide a growing number of over 65 population, but especially in the U.S. And one of the things that really is a challenge with that is that the population is continuing to live longer and longer. And I'm really blessed because I've got a dad that's 82 and a mom that's 79. And, we're right here with a lot of this conversation that we're having and doing the things that we're talking about. There's some of those plans have been another place that, works better for them in their retirement years, or is this their forever home? But these are the conversations that, believe it or not, you well, in our circumstance, we thought we understood this and we thought we had a pretty clear intention and idea around this. But sitting down and having these conversations and being open to all sorts of different ways to do things is really critical and important. I mean, we just found out things that we didn't even realize were important to mom and dad in this process. So of this age 65 and those numbers, there's other things that we need to be factoring here. If you think, you know what, we don't even need to really consider this because whatever your reason is, that's fine. But 7 out of 10 people will actually require long-term care in their lifetime. And if we're going to take a look at, what does that mean for the 7 out of 10 people? Well, the average long-term care scenario is about 3 years, right? That's pretty significant. And of those people that are in those long-term care scenarios, the people that have chosen to, you do the long-term care or do the caregiving themselves out of their family, 56% of those caregivers have children under the age of 18. And that is a real challenge when you're really trying to navigate or think about some of these things. It's more than likely you're busy. You're busy with your family. You're busy with your kids. And it's so easy, myself included, to be distracted over here in a beautiful way, distracted with the family and the kids, but then not really thinking about the care of mom and dad. So there's got to be some intentionality here around it. And from our experience, it's being open to, what's important here is that mom and dad still have a lot of capacity, and they've got some real needs that they would rather have met in different ways. And so that's a big driver in these conversations, folks.
And what's important is recognizing the signs to kind of begin some of those conversations, right? So it's not always easy to just jump into that, but there are some warning signs out there that if you pick up on it, it really is time to sit down and, bring in the family and begin to lay some of that groundwork. And some of those warning signs include things like, phone calls, our creditors leaving messages, our charitable organizations calling for more and more donations. Are there any new friends leaving messages looking for loans and favors and things along those lines? So, be mindful and kind of monitor phone traffic as best you can and, just try and be aware of the conversations that are taking place, especially any of them that point towards gifts and favors and money, period. Check in the mail. Are credit card companies offering new promotions? Does it look like bills are going unpaid? Are they bouncing checks? Things along those lines. Again, more telltale signs that perhaps they're not quite as sharp or as mindful with money as they once were. And are they increasing their spending? Are there more expensive items showing up at the house? Is the Amazon guy there, 3 times a week, the boxes piling up? And have they, done simple things like, are they gambling more, going to the casino, buying lottery tickets, whatever it may be? You've spent a life with your parents, so you understand what their habits are like, specifically on spending, and you probably have some vague picture of their financial wherewithal. So when you see trends moving in the wrong directions or things start to change, those are the signs that it's time to have that conversation.
Folks, you're listening to Money on Tap, and we are talking about protecting your future and your parents. We're going to take a quick break, but before we do that, think about this. We have a couple of seminars that we're putting on and webinars. There's Social Security is one, and taxes and retirement, both very important topics for you to have some kind of an education or understanding around when trying to plan through retirement. To sign up for that, you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We will be right back. You're listening to Money on Tap.
If you're listening today and, your questions are outside the box of estate planning or financial planning or any number of the pieces that we kind of traditionally talk about, don't forget that Brayshaw Financial offers auto, home, and business insurance. and we have an entire department that handles all of that for you. Give us a call at 855-226-8551 and be happy to take care of those needs for you. Or email us at info@yourmoneyontap.com.
Now back to Money on Tap with Ben, Seth, and Dan.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. We're talking about protecting your future and your parents. The numbers are incredible around our population here, the aging over the age of 65, and that demographic increasing every day. And alongside of that, we have a population that is continuing to live longer. Great things, all great things around us. Having the plan in place, or the understanding between, yourself and your finances and your parents and theirs, or if you are the parent and your children, whatever those conversations are, is what we're talking about right now. And, the long-term care conversation is so much more than a product or a facility. There's as we were talking about Twitter, there's the world of the phone and electronics and all of these things that people have almost like another life inside of sometimes, and how to help them make sure that they're protected with these things and not getting scammed. By the way, I had a really good one the other day. My dad called me up and said Publishers Clearinghouse told him he won $2.5 million. Called him up out of the blue. And I had the privilege of taking a look and seeing what's going on with Publishers Clearinghouse and how this scam works, because that's what it was, folks. It was just protecting mom and dad. Anyways, there's other things that we can be doing besides just putting products in place and all this stuff that we do in financial plans. But one of the things I did want to talk about with you guys is, in terms of the product and in terms of those kind of, I guess, packages that we try to put together or put into place so people have, balance between their life and their care and their finances. What are some of the things that you find to be like really the most important pieces to make sure that they have in place around some kind of a product?
Yeah, Seth. So, there are definitely some key features that you want to look for, and I think one I mentioned earlier was the life insurance piece. I really like the long-term care solid offer that has kind of a life insurance caveat on the back end to take care of, kind of a return of some of the investment, if not all or more. That's been a very popular scenario. It takes a lot of the what if about long-term care. That's the first piece. The next piece I would tell you that I think is the most important. So the first piece being something to make the purchaser feel better about buying long-term care. I think the most important piece about buying long-term care is in-home care. Straight up in-home care is the most vital thing you could be worried about today, and how it's provided, whether there's a waiting period before benefits start, what value you're going to get in in-home care. Because we have this aging demographic, Seth, that you were talking about earlier, and this massive, retirement number of people just kind of coming through the system with baby boomers and everything else. And just think of it as just a massive bubble just sliding along the timeline scale. And those people are all going to need care at roughly a very similar time period. And I think that it's not going to be whether or not you can afford care or you have money in the bank or any of those things. But even if you can't afford care, all that care is probably going to be designed for at home. So the last thing you want to be really focusing on is, making sure your nursing home coverage is at. I think nursing homes are really going to be for the super terminal kind of like end of stage. It's going to be, first need, first served scenario where I think they're going to, and I honestly think from an investment strategy, in-home care opportunities in the development and the design of providing better in-home care is going to be where the marketplace is going to go from an investment side. That being said, that's going to be the demand is we have no places to put people. So how do we do more and more care at home?
Yeah, you can definitely see a day. I think, one of the things the pandemic, brought us all into the world of is, doing things by FaceTime and Zoom and teleconference in general. So having these teledoc appointments take place with a nursing assistant by your side in your own home is going to replace half or 3/4 of the appointments you would have had to go to in 10, 15, 20 years down the road. So all of that will be done at home at much less the cost without nearly as much medical staff involved. And, the actual caretaker present with you isn't going to be a doctor or nurse. It's going to be kind of a lower level licensed assistant who's going to provide a lot of that care. And that's exactly the type of care that becomes very affordable inside of these programs.
And we've seen that happen inside some of the Obamacare Act and stuff like that, where they've actually made it where you can go to CVS and you can literally get medical treatments. Like pharmacists can re-prescribe medications in the same domain. Like if you have high blood pressure and that medication's not working for you, they can try out another high blood pressure medication. And I think you're right. I think that's where the demand of care is going to push down responsibilities on that lower level area.
And that's one of the main reasons we have a specifically, preferred product in this realm, and the key feature there that Ben was alluding to and how it's defined in case you're looking at a program elsewhere or you have something in hand. It's 0-day elimination for home health care. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that means the first day you need it, you're getting covered. And that's really, really important because you just need the coverage at home. And that's separate from the availability. So if the availability is not there, great, you got in-home care. But honestly, a good, solid in-home care program, even if you're living with your children, right, it hires somebody else to come in. Yeah, your children have to manage scheduling and access and all that stuff. So that's complicated a little bit for sure. But it takes away the actual daily care. And on top of that, it's like you can now live your life. If you're husband and wife and you both need a little bit of care, you're going to live the best together you're going to live for a longer period of time.
Yeah, the preservation of dignity alone, letting the trained staff do some of the harder tasks there, and it keeps you engaged with your family without having, some of the harder moments fall upon them is just going to be just a major relief. It's a big deal.
And we've had, whether you're in a home or whether you're at home, whatever it is, there's other care facilities that will help, mitigate cost and so forth. Armada, which is a place here locally, but they're a franchise system. They'll come into your nursing home and help your parents with additional items. They'll come into your house and help your parents. I mean, there's all sorts of services out there that are franchised that I think are really solid opportunities to mitigate price, to get real help, to manage the claims process with the. I mean, they'll actually negotiate and handle claims process with the long-term care company. I mean, there's resources out there to make this something that's not so unbearable that it just destroys your retirement, your family, your situation in a way that you don't want it to be. I mean, it's just part of life.
And besides the financial solutions, there's some pretty cool technological things that you can get that, will help ease, at least the early onset of that home health care situation. There's electronic pill dispensers, which are great, which will, just distribute the right pills and the right dosage at the right times. So you don't have to worry about, pharmaceutical mistakes taking place. There's, Apple and other electronic watches that they can have like emergency signals be sent if you haven't moved in the last 60 seconds or so. They can monitor pulse and heart rate and different vital signs, and as well be a quick call out, if there is an emergency or a fall, rather than wearing the thing around the neck, which, has some stigma associated with it. The Apple Watch or any of these similar devices, just don't have that stigma with them and can be just critically useful in an emergency situation if somebody finds themselves in a spot where they can't get to a phone. And then things like smoke and carbon dioxide detectors. If they're forgetful and cooking at home still, you want to make sure that alert gets out as quick as possible and that there's help on the way before you have to count on them to recognize that there's an issue.
Yeah, one of the things that came up was the Google Nest doorbell as well. And I was not really aware of the benefits of this choice versus the the other ones that are out there right now. But what this Google Nest gives the ability to do is it has like this vertical aspect of 4 to 3, allowing you to see the person that's in front of you in the doorbell, but also sees the ground, and it can tell if there's a package left on the ground. And you know what? In all of these things that we're talking about, safety being one of the primary things that you want to see, it really eliminates them needing to get up or be mobile or put themselves in harm's way, first and foremost. One of the other ones that came up was the Lutron Cassetta Smart Bridge, and it's a smart dimmer and motion sensor. And this has to do with the mobility and the rise that happens. A lot of falls start to happen, and they happen in these dark hallways a lot of the time. And this has the ability to sense the motion and turn the lights up so they're not a dark hallway and they're not putting themselves into a situation for a fall, which is just awesome. And there's a lot more out there too in terms of the technology that's helping our aging parents. If you're looking for some resources here, we've got a couple of things that you can go to and take a look at. One is at www.eldercare.gov. And this is sponsored by the U.S. Administration on Aging. And you can find local services that might help you find a way to balance your job and caregiving responsibilities. If you are, in fact, the person that is, taking on the caregiving for your family. You can also go to the National Council on Aging. And what you're going to find there at the National Council of Aging is advocacy. It's an advocacy group, but it helps you find partnering nonprofit organizations, governments, and businesses that can have some resources there for you. So there's a lot of people out here in the situation and helping in different ways that you just may not have even discovered or even thought of. You are listening to Money on Tap. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And when you give us a call, we have a couple of options. We've got a webinar on Social Security and another one on taxes and retirement. And it would be great to connect you that way and spend some time with you and go through a couple of pieces that are really, really critical for you to understand as you get closer to or as you are in your retirement. Again, that's Social Security or taxes and retirement. And you can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And we are talking about protecting your future and your parents today. Both very important topics that we get to work through as financial planners. And we just enjoy an opportunity to be here with you today. You could be doing so many different things right now, and you've chosen to spend this time with us, and we value that, and we appreciate you for it. So we're not going to... What did I try to say there? What are we going to do? Ben, I think you need to just kind of take over at this point.
Sure.
Because, yeah, thanks.
I'm happy to. Hey, Dan, it's your turn to take over. Now, I think we're going to talk a little bit about caring for yourself and kind of breaking into that space right now. But, I think as all three of us sit here and we're kind of going through the concept of, how do you mitigate long-term care that's going to impact you when you're not even the person getting the care? You're just the child or the brother or sister or whatever. That's a big deal. And I think I have seen a number of people literally lose everything, millions of dollars, by not engaging proper planning and care. It's not that we don't give the advice. People sometimes just don't want to take it, and they still use us to invest money. But at the end of the day, whatever it costs, it costs. And some of these facilities cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And there's almost an unlimited amount of cost in how much care you need. And one really sad example I have is this husband and wife were married. It was a second marriage. Long-term care was presented. They decided not to buy. They both went to a care facility. He had Alzheimer's and dementia, just hit him really hard to the point where he didn't remember his wife. after decades of being married. And then because he didn't know who she was, he thought she was stealing from him, so forth. And there was domestic violence just out of confusion. It ended up resulting in them both needing separate care apart from each other. So 2 rooms at one nursing home. And it drained a multi-million-dollar estate very quickly over about a 12-year period. And there's a zillion bad stories. It's not there's one. I could give you 10. And I think that's the piece that people don't really understand. And Seth, you said 7 out of 10 people will need care. And I know that if, the husband and wife both married over 65, there's a chance one of them is going to live, 25% chance one of them is going to live to 100. The odds as time goes on and the medicine continues to advance and the world continues to move forward, people live longer, right? And all of a sudden the odds for that care become increasingly greater. And so it's an ongoing problem that's going to be even more significant, even 10 years down the road and more common. And it's going to be 8, 9 out of 10 people are going to need it. And
that's another reason with the particular product that we like best in this space, it has another unique benefit, and that is lifetime coverage for a couple.
Yeah, that's true, too.
Lifetime unlimited coverage for a couple, which is absolutely fantastic. But that's not really where I was going to go. One of the things that we also came across in preparing for this and, in my personal experiences and some of the stories that I've heard with clients, you just really wish this had taken place, but it's the construction of a personal care agreement. And what that is given the fact that 1 out of 3 of these adult caregivers end up leaving their jobs at their own financial peril, it's an agreement, it's an understanding made between parents and a caregiver and siblings, basically everybody involved with a financial stake in the family around who's going to provide what care, how it's going to be paid for, and if that person is to receive any compensation for the work that they do. And it's not necessarily a legally binding document. It's something that it's just there to memorialize the conversations so that, if anybody's memory gets a little faded or foggy over time or some of the work becomes overbearing, you can always refer back to this document and say, hey, listen, at the onset of this issue, this is what we all collectively decided. And if we're going to make changes, you do it in writing, you do it collectively. But to have that blueprint for what the care plan looks like, at least at the onset as a working document, is just absolutely critical. I've just seen and heard of so many really ugly instances where, understandably, the workload just gets just overbearing and people, are afraid to lose their own jobs and their own finances are at stake and they're going out of pocket for expenses. And the resources of the sick are probably drained at that point. So, how and will they ever be made whole is a big question. And, now you begin to jeopardize your own retirement plans. And above and beyond the black and white of it and the financial aspects of it, it's just critically important to make sure that you have a backup plan set there so the caregiver can get a break, can take a vacation, can get some time away from the care instance and have somebody else fill in for them for at least some period of time just to recharge the batteries and just get a kind of a refreshed outlook at the task at hand. So that bit of advice, I think, as much as any of the financial products and the other solutions are valuable, I think that is just as equally as important to do.
Agreed.
You guys, we have covered a ton of information here, and there's more, like we just couldn't even get to all of it. But, one of the things I think is really important if we're talking about the family, the construction of this idea, and the planning is just taking care of yourself as well. And I'll say one of the things that I learned in going to lots of doctor's appointments is how do we help mom and dad? And really, there's 3 areas that the doctors say is more important than most of the rest of the stuff, and that's the nutrition, and that's the activity, and that's engaging in some things that really help the brain come together differently. Playing piano, playing games, reading, these kind of things are all just part of the package that people can do right now and moving forward to really help improve that quality of life. And so please take that into consideration as well while you're planning these pieces. Folks, you have been listening to Money on Tap, and we've been talking about protecting your future and your parents. And if this is a conversation that you need to continue or take to the next level, give us a call. You can reach us at 855-226-8551 or info@yourmoneyontap.com. And while you're calling, sign up for the Social Security or taxes and retirement seminars. It's a lot of fun, and it's great information for y'all. I hope you make it a great week.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of this radio station and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. No strategy, product, material, or tool mentioned can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information, products, materials, or tools mentioned should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. This show may be subsidized in whole or in part by a product sponsor or issuer. Securities and advisory services offered through SagePoint Financial Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, and a registered investment advisor. All other services offered through Brayshaw Financial Group LLC are independent of SagePoint Financial. SagePoint Financial and Brayshaw Financial Group do not provide tax or legal advice. Main office is located at 116 South River Road, Bedford, New Hampshire, 03110, and can be reached at toll-free 855-226-8551.